A Plague Tale Requiem is a game that feels hypocritical in the way it is written. On surface level, you might say that the authors are glorifying Amicia, and that Amicia should be regarded as a peerless heroine who never coils from taking the hard choices. Sometimes, that might even be true, particularly when you see her relationship with her mother, who seeks Vaudin so he can make choices in her place, and all the while throws the burdens of those choices down her daughter. However, the game also feels hypocritical, because for as much as the designers supposedly are celebrating their strong female character, it also feels as if they are toying with her. In simple words, they are not taking their character seriously, going as far as to ridicule her on several moments. Moments like when she goes to save Lucas and ends up having him arrested along with her are perfect examples of how the designers make their character look ridiculous. Or each time Amicia promises sunshine and rainbows to Hugo without really knowing if what they are going to find actually exists, or is good for the kid in the first place.
I'll make all this worth it, Hugo!
I know you want to!
No, I will!
One thing is writing your character as a flawed human being, capable of doing things right at times, and doing things wrong at other times. And one thing is when your character consistently commits the same mistakes and doesn't grow any wiser each time. Your character stops looking human and starts looking fictitiously obtuse, as if the writers themselves are negating her the ability to learn and grow because they want to push a secret agenda. This is also inconsistent to how her character was in the first game, in which she shows more growth as the story goes forward. A perfect albeit subtle example of Amicia's growth in the first game is seen through her prayers. At the beginning, we see her pray to her darling dog, which had just died a few moments ago. She is the perfect child in that scene. Often, the first time kids meet with mortality is through the death of their pets. A few chapters later, she prays again, and this time, it is for the sake of her own soul. This happens a few moments after she kills for the first time, to protect her brother. Her innocence lost, she feels stained, and prays to God for salvation. Once again, this is a natural human evolution. As soon as we start growing up and have to start getting our hands dirty in what is called the game of life, we start missing our innocence, and therefore pray that life doesn't continue changing us that much, and much less into bad. Close to the ending, we have the third and final prayer. Amicia now has matured a lot as a person. She has come to terms with her sins, and now her concerns go beyond her. Hugo is missing at that point in the game, and she, instead of praying for her own salvation as she did before, prays for the safety of her brother. In this first game, Amicia demonstrates a more natural, believable, and compelling evolution than the one she had in the second game, which is none. After getting herself and Lucas arrested and almost executed, Amicia should have been more careful afterwards, but that of course doesn't happen. After Hugo's first disappointment in the old alchemist lab in Lacuna Island, Amicia should have been more careful with what she says to him afterwards. But no, she promises him the impossible and doesn't deliver what she actually can, all the while patronizing him, and at one time even verbally abuses him when he starts doing by himself exactly what she's been teaching him, and sometimes even asking him to do the whole game. Murder with little regard for human life. Even after Sophia scolds them both in the boat, she still doesn't change. This little brat is incapable of learning and redeeming herself in this sequel. All the while, you can hear the designers laughing behind her. A Plague Tale Innocence was a game that I felt genuine in its construction. It says what it says, and it does so with considerable skill. It is a game that I was proud of showing to my big sister because it paid a beautiful homage to big sisters and women in general. A Plague Tale Requiem is a different story. It mocks femininity. It reduces their importance and impact on men's lives.
You won't calm down, I don't know what to do.
And all this is hidden behind a supposed veil of strength, courage, and a sense of empowerment. It does the typical thing of many other games and movies in which women are portrayed as little boys with guns. However, their true impact and influence as women over men's lives is completely gone and at times even belittled. In the end, I wasn't proud of showing this game to my big sister, because it is constructed solely with the intention of mocking people like her. When my big sister played Requiem, she said that the game felt humiliating, that she could feel as if the designers themselves were not taking their characters seriously. It felt as if they were playing with her. They never celebrate, validate, or reward anything that she does that is good, and on the other hand, they don't punish her many mistakes either. It is as if they were simply playing with her, a rat in a maze, running in circles and never ever accomplishing anything in her journey. She also hated, as I did, how Amicia ignores Hugo's pleas. She pointed out scenes like the one after they leave Basilius and Aelia's quarters, and Amicia thinks she can distract depressed Hugo with childishness like, "Oh, now they decorated the island a little bit more." Patronizing that is insulting not only for the boy but for the audience watching the scene, and instead of taking the rest of the day off and have Hugo rest from the past ordeal and see if he can start enjoying the festivity, Amicia then drags Hugo to the smuggler's fortress for an even worse dose of pain. My sister, who is a big sister to a baby brother and a grown-up woman with maternal instincts, felt this game lacking in terms of affection. Compared to the first game, in which Amicia embraces Hugo more, covers his eyes from violence, watches his sleep during the night, protects him and doesn't take a step until she is sure the boy is safe, this second game felt barren, their interaction most of the time empty, as if in a hurry to get to the next gameplay moment. Needless to say that my sister, who is not a gamer but played these games because of the sister and brother story, did not appreciate that one bit. Since most players disliked Hugo and considered him a load more than an aid. Yes, because it seems that 40-year-old kids are supposed to be fearless, no-nonsense badasses, and it's completely unforgivable if they do what you would expect a kid of that age to do. Then Asobo Studios decided to make Hugo even more self-sufficient to a degree that you don't actually have to protect him in this game. In a technical sense, Hugo in Requiem is a powerhouse that can control rats and tell you where the enemies are. He can still open doors, as in the first game, and now climbs more obstacles without help. Through many story moments he defends his sister and saves the day, and on very, very few occasions you actually have to carry him and care for him. It was as if the designers wanted to pep up the gameplay, so that the child-hating players that want to play a game about motherhood without indulging the kid can go on playing without stops, but they ended up stealing the soul from the game, everything that made the first one special. Big Sister felt that reducing Hugo's dependency hastens the pace of the gameplay, but not in good ways, because parenting is a mission that takes a lifetime to fulfill, and parents need to be patient with their kids, otherwise they are going to injure them emotionally in irreparable ways. Reducing Amicia's responsibilities towards her brother and writing her always as an impatient person that is always pushing her brother around delivers a very wrong impression about her character. It can almost look, at times, as if she is trying to shrug off the kid. Many were the times that my sister said under her breath, "God, if only they let me hold him, sit with him, and talk to him, measuredly, not the rushed and empty banters they share through most of the campaign."
Whatever's there, we'll find it together. Island explorers.
Yes!
She felt that Amicia had been transformed into a very stupid person in this sequel. She also felt the character inconsistent, as if she was a completely different person to whom she used to be in the first game. She felt Amicia so empty in this second game, too cold to Hugo to be liked. Another example is that moment in which they find Aelia's prison, in which she criticized Amicia for getting absorbed in the glories of her loser ancestor and completely ignores Hugo. Hugo asks her to be careful of spiders, and she ignores him. Hugo tries to read the ring on her finger, and she pulls the hand away without even noticing him. My sister was so infuriated with this scene, and so many others, because all of this is supposed to be for Hugo's sake, yet Amicia is ignoring the boy altogether and silencing him with patronizing words. She criticized the whole ordeal of Aelia's tower because they infiltrate a fort filled with slavers that are not going to be kind to any of them, Amicia, Sophia, or even Hugo, if caught. All of this to get into a dusty room and see what they can find. All the while, Amicia forces Hugo to witness and even partake in situations that should have been avoided in the first place, ignoring his pleas, patronizing him, and in the end loses herself in her own dreams of glory, forgetting entirely what all of this was supposed to be about. My sister also criticized their confrontation with Milo a few moments later. Amicia didn't even defend Hugo from Milo. It was Sophia the one to stand up and defend the kid. Yes, the big brute of a guy slapped them both, but it was Sophia the one that mustered the strength to get up first. Milo even confuses Sophia for Hugo's protector. Why? Because Sophia, apparently, is doing a better job than Amicia.
You're the girl from the painting.
No. Yeah. She is.
Amicia gets up afterwards, when it's a little late, and heroically helps Sophia back to her feet, ignoring Hugo completely. It was at that time that my sister was fully convinced that this game is trash. And if that wasn't enough, the next evening she saw the scene in which they encounter Aelia's corpse. She hated that scene because, once again, Hugo is an afterthought. They find Aelia's body, and Amicia, needs her time with her ancestor, and so Sophia gently takes Hugo's hand and leads him away from his sister and her private moment, and Amicia has another scene of greatness as she identifies with Aelia's pain.
I know how it feels. Fighting alone. Fighting not to be alone.
It seems that lately it is more important for Amicia to find the legacy of a two-bit sister like her than the welfare of her own brother. I personally hated this scene too, and it was mainly because Amicia, once again, is talking about fighting alone, and fighting not to be alone, and all the while I was thinking to myself, maybe that's the mistake both of you women committed. You were fighting too much and inducing your respective brothers to do the same. Besides, you've never been alone, Amicia. Hugo is not half the pest real-life children tend to be, and most of the time you have had the help of a lot of people through both games that helped you survive, fight, and take care of the kid. So technically speaking, you've never really been alone, Amicia. Stop victimizing yourself, woman. And by all means, stop aggrandizing your accomplishments. They aren't that big. Another thing my sister hated was the cheesiness of dialogues like this.
She's going to get hurt, Sophia.
She'll be fine. She's the most resourceful woman I've ever met.
Really?
But she's alone. And there's so many.
You know her. She's done this before. She's stubborn. Far more stubborn than them.
On that subsequent part when Amicia, once again, commits a stupid act and almost falls to her death for the 100th time, my sister said something like, "Yeah, die!" And afterwards she said that this is what bad writing can do to destroy a once good character. You know something is terribly wrong with your story when you start to pray the protagonist dies, because if she does, Hugo, for as sad as he might be at first, will be better off without her. Or, when you think weird thoughts like Sophia should have run off with Hugo while Amicia was stuck down there solving the puzzle. Yes, believe me when I say that my sister said all kinds of things. Hey, Arno, take Hugo with you. The writers won't humiliate you as they seem to enjoy humiliating Amicia, so take the boy with you. Meet again once the writers are done with Amicia. They are certainly not going to kill or mutilate her, so she'll be fine. Or, hey, Sophia, take Hugo with you. The writers won't kill you because you're a woman, and they are too distracted torturing Amicia to take much notice of you. Take care of him all the while, and remember, he loves apples. Trust me, Amicia is going to be alright. The worst thing that can happen to her is to get all of her bones broken before reaching 30, and of course, every writer's favorite, the classic rape scene. Anyhow, she is going to make it back alive, so you keep Hugo alive, because the writers seem to be bent on having Amicia destroy him herself. At this point, it is best for the kid to separate him from his sister until the writers are through with their kinks. And even more outlandish than the last one is, hey, Kratos, do you want to give Atreus a kid brother? Bye, Hugo. The first two made me laugh, but the third one made me cry. Jesus Christ, how I hate this game. I hate it because it disillusioned my sister, who has spent her life looking after her family. The first game was a tribute dedicated to people like her, but the second game spat on all of that. It spat on my sister's face, and for that, I hate it. As a whole, A Plague Tale Innocence is a more realistic and grounded story, and it is easier to relate to the characters because they are more attuned to what reality is. The best example, of course, is Amicia and Hugo, whose personalities and relationship are way more relatable in the first game, mainly because they are more universal. Most of what happened in Innocence is allegorical to real-life traumas and natural fears that all children have suffered on one moment or the other. The fear of losing your parents, losing your home, the fear of strangers, of a life that has changed drastically, the fear of the dark, of fast, creepy animals, the fear of leery old men and hulking armored fiends, the fear of seeing your guardian fall, all of these fears are real. I have felt them, my siblings have felt them. You, who are watching this video, have felt them. Share your thoughts on the matter down below in the comments if you want, but the point is that the game is relatable because it addresses real-life issues. The macula in itself resembles the anger that a child feels, an anger that lashes back against all of the prior mentioned fears, and it manifested through the rats and the plague. On the other hand, A Plague Tale Innocence also reflects the joys of childhood, the love of family, the joy of meeting new friends, of exploring the world, the joy of finding a new home, and the love for beautiful things. Once again, all of these feelings we felt on one moment or another. Similar to reality, all of these beautiful things help tame the inherent violence inside of the child, balancing the experience for the audience and making it more relatable. In the second game, however, the story is less grounded. Whatever impact this game might have is because they are using the universal characters of the first game to tell this fictitious story now. This isn't a story about parenting. This isn't a story of childhood or growing strong for the sake of those you love. This is a particular story of a crappy mother and a crappy daughter that didn't know what to do with their particular son, whose problem is a highly magical one and no longer can be fixed through maternal care and responsibility. This is a story of a cult and a childless married couple that are way too crazy to be believable, of a slaver that has paternal instincts and believes in some child of embers, yet another one that is way too crazy to be believable. This is a story of a woman who fights back against oppressors without thinking, and as such gets her ass kicked. But this second story is not as universal as the first one was, and therefore not as relatable. For example, How many people are as dumb as Amicia in A Plague Tale Requiem? The answer is simple, not many. Why? Because in real life, things are different, and people do not have such a thing as plot armor. If people were to behave as recklessly and stubbornly and stupidly as Amicia of Requiem does, they would simply die. In the end, the designers decided to individualize Amicia and Hugo, and in the Grand Millennial Darkness fashion, decided to individualize them as the worst version of a sister and brother story. Great job, Asobo Studios. I could say that I enjoyed making this video, but I would be lying if I did. I didn't enjoy Requiem, and I haven't enjoyed berating this game as incessantly as I have. However, I have to take this disappointment off my chest and provide content for the few people out there that think as I do. Sad as it might sound, not many people cared for the atrocities that this game committed. They are all too busy talking about big weapons and broken crossbow mechanics and useless upgrade trees. So someone has to talk about what truly is relevant in this game, which is its lousy story. There is more in the way. More Requiem videos to dig in reflection that I promise you is on the way, and a few other things that are new for this channel. Stay on the lookout, like and subscribe, and hit the bell. I'll be back with more content, but until then, stay safe.